welcome back. Last time I mentioned that I wanted to talk about the layout of a coaching session in my next video, so that's what this one is going to be focusing upon. Yesterday I had my very first coaching session with a fellow trainee coach. It was her first session as well. So we began by me coaching her and then she coached me afterwards. And it was really good to have both sides of it and see what I as a coach realised I was finding difficult, and as a client being able to feel what worked and what didn't from what was coming from my coach. So I want to talk a little bit about just the layout of the session and then a little bit about what I learned from yesterday. So in a coaching session, for anyone who might be interested in getting some coaching in their time, it would always start out before the actual session. So the coach will often send you some activities that they want you to work through beforehand. And these activities, there's a couple. There's one which will help you figure out what your main values are. And then there's another activity which is very popular in the coaching world called the Wheel of Life. And there's different ways this Wheel of Life can be done. And all it is really is literally a wheel, like a circle drawn on a bit of paper, split up into different segments, 6 or 8 segments. And in that you define different areas of your life. Different things are important to you. That could be career, it could be finances, it could be relationships, family, adventure, travel. It can be literally anything, health, just something that is important in your life. When you've identified those areas, you then have to rate them without much thought at all, just on a scale of 1 or 0 to 10. 10 being absolutely everything is perfect and content and amazing in this area of your life and nothing could possibly be better, and 0, it's atrocious. You know, there's nothing going right, you're completely unhappy and miserable in this area. So you give each a mark really quickly, not much thought at all, just your gut instinct really. And when you've done that, it's amazing actually the impact that can have on you, because I've done it a couple of times now over the past year at different points in my life and seen how it changes, and that will help you identify an area of your life that you might want to focus on in your coaching sessions that you go into with your coach. So the activities the coach is giving you are a lot more for you than the coach, I think, in my opinion at least. You know, as a coach, it was very useful for me to see these things and to get an idea what my client might come to me with. But actually, I think it was a lot more about raising, your self-awareness of what it is that you want to be working on. So there's some things you might do before a coaching session, and then you come and you meet your coach. And when you do, the first thing the coach might ask you is, what goal have you brought with you today? And if you don't have a specific goal, that's fine, because, that's partly why the coach is there, help you figure out your goal. So you might have a goal in mind, which is great, but you might not. You might just have an area of your life you think you want to work on. So then the coach will begin the sessions really by just questioning you, helping you really define and narrow down your goal, helping you realize if that goal is right for you or not. After a goal has been identified, we'll then move into some questions all around what's going on in your life now in relation to that goal. And the idea of this section is really to make sure that the goal that you have is achievable and it is something that you really want, that lines up with your values, lines up with you. So such things might be like, why, is there anything in your life now that might prevent you from reaching this goal? Or is there anything in your life that you really want to preserve whilst reaching this goal? Just sort of questions, just really to tease out what's really going on under the surface. And at this stage, it might be that the coach picks out some limiting beliefs that you might have around this goal, in which case they can question you further to help to get rid of these so that nothing is holding you back when you actually come to working towards it, putting in some actions. At the end of this section, it's a nice idea as a coach to just ask the client to tell them again what their goal is. It's just putting the ownership back onto the client, back onto you, and saying, okay, remind me, what's your goal? So this is after you've thought all about what's going on in your life now. And when you say it back, something that's really powerful here is, as a coach, just to say, okay, and is that goal still relevant to you? Because it might be that after you've really thought about what's going on in your life now, that actually maybe that goal's not achievable, or maybe it's just that it doesn't really line up with what you actually want. And maybe it might be that actually, no, the goal's generally good, but you just want to change it a little bit because you've thought of something else during this conversation. So it's just double checking that the goal you've come with is the goal you definitely want to work on. Now, this is where we move into the third stage of a coaching session. And these are all questions based around what different options you can have. And this I found as a client was the hardest part of the whole thing, because this is where you've really got to think. This is where you've got to come up with loads of different ways that you might be able to achieve that goal. And that can be really hard. And the initial reaction is a bit like, I don't know. And that's where the coach comes in and questions you in different ways to try and make you open up your mind, free that space in your head to come up with these different options that otherwise you might really stumble upon and find difficult just sitting on your own. One question I found really useful in the session I ran yesterday, after having got to know my client a little bit, was, what if there was no way that you could be embarrassed or humiliated? Then what would you do? Because after speaking to my client, I realised they were some areas that she was worried about. So I took that out the equation. I removed that. That's not a problem. That's not going to happen. What is something you could do if that wasn't an issue? And actually, after she come up with various different options, I then asked, okay, so which ones do you want to work on now? You know, which option do you actually want to take action? Which option do you actually want to take action on? And it was that one which she came up with from that question. And it was something she'd written off before. She tried in the past. She wasn't particularly keen on doing it again. She sort of had a particular belief around where that would lead or not lead, and had dismissed it. But by asking her that question and making her reconsider it as an option, she then realised actually that's perhaps one of her best options to go forward with. So that was really amazing. That was a really good moment for me actually as a coach. And she did. She's going forward with it. So we then move into our final set of questions. So we've come up with all these options, all these different ideas, and then we choose, okay, which ones do you want to take action on? It might be the most comfortable one, the most easy one. And you then think, okay, so that's what you want to do. When are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Who else? Is there anyone else that needs to be involved in it? Is there anybody else that needs to know that you're doing this? How often are you going to do it? Just lots of different questions to make sure that there's no way it's not going to get done. So, is there anything that's going to get in your way from achieving this goal? Okay, what can you do if that does arise? And just come out with loads of different questions just to make sure that the person being coached is going to go away and actually do the action point which they've committed to. And a nice way to then sort of end the session, once we've got that goal, we've thought about any potential barriers in your life right now which are going to stop you from being there, double check that goal really is for you, it is the one you want to go forward with. We've explored loads of different options, loads of different ways that you might be able to achieve that goal, some of which we can come back to later in different sessions. And you've chosen an action point that you want to do now. that you're going to leave this session and you're going to get started on in the next 24 to 48 hours. You've considered anything that might get in your way and you've got rid of that barrier. It's happening. As a coach, then might just round off a session, but just by asking you, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how enthusiastic are you about going forward with this action? How high is your intention to go forward with this action? And that's just to make sure that actually, because you might be saying, oh, this is great, it's amazing, I feel really good, I'm really happy, I feel I've come somewhere, but actually you go away and you haven't got any intention to complete it. So it's just double checking what your intention is, and if it is low, then thinking, okay, well, let's just take away these last barriers at this last point. How can we bring that up? How can we get your intention from a 6 to a 7 or 7 to an 8? And that will essentially be the end of the session. And then obviously you'd arrange to meet up again later on, maybe in a week, 2 weeks, depending upon what your targets. So me and the other training coach, we've agreed to meet up in 2 weeks' time, because for both of us, the actions we put into place, they're going to be taking a couple of weeks for us to really see anything from them. So it made sense for us to meet up in 2 weeks' time. But it was really great, and now I'm really looking to coach somebody else, because it was so good. It was really invigorating that actually I don't want to wait 2 weeks until I coach somebody else. So I'm going to be trying to find myself another client that I can coach in those alternating weeks as well. So I think I really mentioned some of the main things that I learned through that. One was that, particularly during that option stage, just questioning in different ways, perhaps considering what those limiting beliefs of the client are and questioning based around those to help open up more options for them. That was a really important one. One of my concerns before this coaching session was, how am I going to feel comfortable challenging this person when I'm essentially a stranger to them? They've met me for an hour maybe, and I'm going to be sitting here and questioning them over and over and over again, really pushing them, really challenging them. How am I going to feel comfortable with that? And actually,